Welcome to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth. My name is Ome Congo and I'm your host, and today we have an international recording artist who has done work across the globe as well as in places like Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center. The World Bank, has been on television multiple times, and she has been called the mother of spoken Afrobeat as well as Mama Africa. And she's going to just talk about her experiences, give us a little bit of advice, just what it means to be an artist and pursue your dreams. So I want Real Talk to welcome Miss Anna Mwalagho.
Oh, thank you so much, Ome Congo. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great. Please tell me, what is spoken Afrobeat?
Wow. Okay, where should I start? Spoken Afrobeat basically is spoken word, and that's like poetry, but now sometimes poetry doesn't have to rhyme or have all the skills or the needs of poetry. And when I say Afrobeat, is because I bring in the Afro flavor, meaning that I inject my accent into it because I'm from Africa. I also talk about
Africa's a big place, so let's break it down for the people. Where specifically are you from on the African continent?
I am from Kenya.
All right.
Yeah, I'm from
Can
Kenya.
You represent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I inject a little bit of my accent, a little bit of the things that are going on in Africa, because I talk about Africa in most of my poems, and then also I put in music, Afrobeat music from East, West Africa to go with the poems or to go with the stories that I'm telling. That's why I'm calling it spoken Afrobeat. Okay.
Now, is Afrobeat something that's fairly new as relates to people using it with their poetry?
Yes. Afrobeat is not new. It's been done by Fela, Miriam Makeba, and many other, Angelique Kidjo, and many other African artists who are known worldwide. But when you put in the spoken aspect in it, the poetry or the poems, is very few African artists who have done that. Namely, there's one from South Africa. His name is Mzwake Mbuli. And then also, I think, I would say Kenyan of Canada. Yeah, he's a Somalian artist who is now based in Canada. He also does a lot of poems, and basically to them it's rap, but sometimes he injects African rhythms in it. So I can say that I'm unique in terms of that not so many people are doing it the way I'm doing it, putting Afrobeat music combined with poetry and spoken word.
Yeah. Interesting. I've been on stage with the brother you mentioned from South Africa. So
oh, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow. You've been with it? Oh, wow.
Yes, definitely. Now, I see from your bio, I mean, you do so many things, from being an actress to a singer or a songwriter. Why is it that spoken Afrobeat, why does that resonate with you more so than the other?
I would say it starts with when I got into the United States 10 years ago, and when I was back home, I was a national actress. Like I was mainly doing acting, and writing poetry was just a personal thing to me. And when I got here is when I think they had just started doing a lot of open mics. Yes. Downtown U Street. And I was like, oh, I love poetry, so I would love to go there and listen to them. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I figured, let me try and speak about Africa, because I realized so many people would come to me because I have an accent and ask me questions about Africa. So I wanted to share my perspective about Africa, bring the positive light of Africa through my poetry. So that's what I started doing, spoken Afrobeat. And then I also realized that I wanted to also close the gap between the immigrants and the citizens of America, in terms of knowing that we are all one, despite the fact that we come from different places with different cultures, but we are all human beings. That way we should respect each other's culture instead of looking down at somebody else's culture. So I decided to do that as a way of educating but also entertaining.
Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. Now, what brought you to America? Were you just looking for new opportunities? Was it school? Chasing love? Or, what brought you here?
Well, interesting. When I left Kenya, I had just finished my undergrad and I was doing economics. And because I used to act a lot I was in Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I was chosen and I won Best Actress in all the universities. So with that, there was an opportunity to come to Hollywood and do a workshop. It was called the Media Workshops.
Okay.
And it had students from all over the world. So I got that opportunity to come. So I went to California and I did the workshop. And after that, I was like, well, I wanted to stay and study and do my master's, or stay and study and look for more opportunities. I still have faith and believe that I will one day be in many Hollywood films, because acting is also one of my passions. So with that, I just decided, let me stay here and continue pursuing my dreams. And I can say that I have achieved partly most of my dreams, because one of my dreams was to have my own band, and I do that here, to also be a full-time poet and a performer, which I'm doing now. So I really am very grateful to God for that.
And the name of the band?
The name of my band is called Mwalagho and Afropoetry Band.
The Afropoetry Band.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Now, one of the things I love to talk about, particularly since we look at issues of young people, is the way youth, what your experiences have been with youth, not just in America, but across the globe. I think it's very important that people understand what other people, young people, think across the globe, about how they act. What have you seen, similarities or differences between youth in Kenya and youth in America? Are the aspirations the same, or is it completely different? Just what have you seen in the last 10 years?
Wow. I would say this, I hadn't been home for over 10 years. So I got the opportunity to go back to Kenya the beginning of this year. And when I spoke to the youth there, I'll see that they have a lot of hope, and they aim very high. But there are also economic issues that are pulling them down. The fact that right now in some African countries, the unemployment rate is too high, is very high. So now they're not thinking in terms of I'll get a job or something like that, but they're thinking in terms of, okay, I want to come to the United States, while they can make opportunities for themselves there. But another issue that I've always spoke about is that when I compare the youth here and the youth in Africa, is that youth here is, when a youth finishes high school, is like a big thing in America. While in Africa, high school is nothing. You have to go to college. People don't do parties for you because you finished high school. People do parties because you've gone to college and graduated. So there's such a big shift in terms of, or difference. Because one aspires to go to college, and here not many of them want to go to college as far as just finish high school. So that is the difference. But I think youth all over the world, they love music. Most of them, they love the rap and all that. So they share that commonality of loving, like, as you say, music, artwork and all that. But the difference is in terms of economic issues and the education.
But on the education, I got to press you a little bit on that. Because Oprah received a lot of flack when she said that when they asked, why are you building a school in South Africa? She basically said she felt like students in South Africa appreciated education more than students in the United States. Do you feel like that is the case, that students in Kenya have a greater appreciation for education than?
Partly, yes, partly it's true. Because as I said, a good example is the fact that high school is not, when even I was growing up, people didn't say make sure you get your GED. It was make sure you graduate from college. So everyone, from the time you enter first grade or 8th grade, you know that you have to go to college. And so that's true. There is so much hunger for education because people see education is the next ladder to success. But here in America, yes, people value education. But I think because of the fact that there was a lot of job opportunities, and also maybe people feel like, okay, I really don't need to go to college to be successful. I can just finish high school and get a job and whatever, and keep doing what I love to do. I think that's the difference. I think America gives you a lot of opportunities as far as jobs, and in Africa, the only way you can probably get ahead is by getting a good education.
Now, back to the music side, though, you're talking about how there's just an appreciation for the music on both sides. Do you feel that the young people in Kenya are more in love with American music? Because we know in many African countries, a lot of the traditional music is dying with the current generation.
Unfortunately.
Are you seeing that in Kenya as well? Is it the love for Jay-Z, or are there Kenyan groups like X-Plasters and other groups that are really achieving popularity?
I would say this. When I was growing up, which is interesting, we loved like Tupac and Biggie. Those what we were listening to.
Yeah.
And I remember even when I think this group came and they were wearing these big pants and stuff like that, sagging jeans and stuff. We thought that was cool, you know, because the media was really, all we could see was music from the West. Nowadays we have so many, I mean, the technology is, you know, out there. So people are not, the youth in Kenya, yes, they love the music from the West, but what they're doing is now changing it to suit themselves in terms of like, they're still using the rap, the hip hop, but it's not Tupac or B.I.G. as much as it is a local artist who has decided to rap in Kiswahili or to talk about bling in Kiswahili and money and stuff like that. So it's the same because the message hasn't changed as much, and that's what saddens me, because I feel like, okay, it's good that you are really, we're really pulling ahead in terms of using our own languages to speak to our youth, and using Kiswahili and singing in Swahili, but also the message has to be a more valuable message.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And speaking of messages and the music, your first CD was called Ukweli, correct?
Yes, yes.
Which means truth?
Yes.
When did you release that?
I released that in 2006.
Okay, and how's the response been to it?
It's been really great. As an independent artist, I can tell you, I really appreciate the fact that people loved it. When I was performing, I remember one time I was performing at the mall, and young kids, like 8 or 10, they came and gave me hugs, and they were like, I have a dream. And you know, one of my poems is called I Have a Dream. And I've had people calling me from New York, like people I don't know, that bought the music, and they're like, I really love the song, and please keep doing what you're doing, because as independent artists, we really need that support, because it's not out there to push your music. It's not easy to push your music, to do the distribution and all that, and survive or live on that. So I think it did well. It could have done better, but I'm pushing my new CD now.
And what do you feel is going to be the big difference? Because we're going to hear some of your poetry when we come back from the break. What's going to be the big difference between this CD and the one you have coming out? Okay,
my first CD, Ukweli, was mainly spoken word and poetry. I did have some background songs, but they were like instrumentals. On the second one, I have both poetry and songs that I'm singing with my band. So the whole CD is with my band that I really appreciate. I must tell you that all my band members are professionals. One of them, the sax player, his name is Lawrence Whitley, and he's known all in the area of Washington, D.C., performed for Aretha Franklin and all the big artists. And then I have James Faison, who plays the bass. We also have Dokun from Nigeria. He's played for Femi Kuti, and we have there's also another performer or musician, Jason, who plays the drum set, is also very well known in this area. So we have all the musicians are professional. They have done an incredible job, and I just want to share my CD with other people.
And what's the name of it?
The name of it is Haki, which means justice.
Haki, which means justice. Okay, so we look forward to hearing a little bit of your poetry when we come back from our break.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We'll be right back with more Real Talk.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So we're getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth. My name is Ome Kongo, your host, and I'm here with the wonderful musician, Anna Mwalagho.
Thank you.
Musician, actress, award-winning, everything, all of that stuff.
I'm trying.
Yeah, no, you're doing,
Okay,
and I'm so glad that people out here are seeing your work. Before we went to the break, we were talking about your new album, Haki, which you said means justice in Swahili.
Yes.
And I think after hearing all of your experiences, the Real Talk audience would just love to hear something from your CD.
Okay. First, before I go to do that poem, I also want to say that you are one of my role models. I met you like 5-6 years ago, and we were performing together at an event, and I've been following you, and you really inspire me. So the fact that we are sharing the same space right now, I'm really honored.
I'm inspired by you too. So
thank you.
Thank you.
So this poem is called "Women of African Women of the World," and the reason why I want to do the poem is because one of our great heroes just passed, and she is actually my hero.
Yes.
And after I read her book, I fell in love with her. I fall in love with her when I was young in Kenya, because she's Kenyan. And so this is a poem that I mention her, and it's called Women of the World and Women of Africa. And my hero and our hero is Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. So this one is called Women of the World. Yelele, yelele mama we, yelele, yelele mama we, yelele, yelele, yelele mama we, yelele, yelele mama we. As the flower of Africa blooms, so does a new day for the women of Africa unfold. From the time of her delivery, the African woman was known to be a liability and not a profit, a loss and not a gain. She was to be seen and not to be heard, to be abused, accused, humiliated, and despised. Yet women of Africa and women of the world have evolved and transcended despite their hardship. They have survived inequalities, disintegration, physical, verbal, and emotional abuse. Women of Africa have survived carrying firewood on their heads, bags of food on their backs, a child on their breast, all at the same time while walking to the market, talking to themselves, for their voices were not to be heard. But still we rise. We rise because of women who paved way for equality and justice. Women like Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize, President Ellen Johnson, the first woman to be elected president in an African country, Mother Teresa, Eleanor Roosevelt, Harriet Tubman, and of course you and I. We rise because we wear many hats. We are mothers, teachers, politicians, managers, even soldiers, and still humble enough to be ideal wives. We rise because our struggles have made us stronger. Thus our backbones have not weakened but hardened to be strong as those of camels. And so as we celebrate one another today, I urge all the women to rally with one another as we face new challenges of HIV and AIDS, poverty, breast cancer, and other underlying problems, yet still fighting for proper equality and respect. Let us empower one another with knowledge so we can help eradicate some of these problems. For knowledge is power, and lack of it is death. Let us empower one another through education so we can teach both the boys and the girls the value of the girl child and her need to be respected. Let us empower one another economically so we can become financially independent, for we are the foundation of the home. Without us, the house cannot stand. Let us empower, partner, and work together, for united we stand and divided we fall, and we all need each other. Let us empower, partner, and work together, for to educate a woman is to educate the whole nation, because it takes a home to build a nation. And even though our struggles still continue, let us not forget that we, the women, have already won the battle.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was, wow. Wow, that was, I mean, I've heard so much of your work, but I just feel like, you know, the passion just comes out every time I hear it. There was one line, there were several lines, but I believe you said, knowledge is power and lack of it is death.
Yes.
That was amazing. What, in addition to being inspired by, you know, some of the people that you mentioned,
yes,
how do you feel as it relates to what you see happening with women? I believe that across the world, you know, our women are being disrespected. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yes, I see that, and it's interesting you asked that question, because, and I even had it today when I was driving, and I really was telling myself, it's sad, but it really is a man's world. And the reason why I say that is when I was driving and I was listening to a commercial, and they were just saying something, you know, like the way they have so many commercials. There was one commercial, the guy, I think it was about football, and the guy was saying, oh, if your wife is getting on you now, something like that. And I was like, it's only men who can be allowed to say that in a commercial, but you can never hear a woman in a commercial saying that. So I think that's one of it. And then I always look at America in terms of like in Africa, what they don't push for as much is the girl-child education.
Right.
While in America, what they don't push so much, as I see, is the boy-child's education.
Wow.
Yeah, and and I always say, I wish people could see that and push for both, because it's really important, as I said, really without our mothers, especially people from Africa, we would not be where we are right now, because they might not have gotten to universities as we did, but they did with the little education or the education they had. They made sure they pushed for us to get more of that. And really to educate her, if you educate a woman in a family, you educate the whole family, because she's the one who's there with the children 99% of the time. She's the one who's going to instill all that education. And that's why even in our tradition, we had our grandmothers teach us the folk stories or the fables or these other stories, because they sat down with us and they impacted that knowledge to us. So it's really important to push for girl child education.
Absolutely. Now, so many young people may be watching this as we speak often. I always say they may be in a transitional phase, looking for inspiration, looking for ways to find their voice. Who or what helped you find your voice? Because obviously you're standing here or sitting here, strong, passionate, and you're very focused on what your message is. Who or what helped you find your way when you were coming up?
I stand on a lot of people's shoulders, from my grandmother, the stories that she had told me, and she still tells me those stories because she's still alive. She's 93.
Wow.
And my mother. And then coming to America, I remember one of the first books I read was a Maya Angelou book. I Know Why the Kids Birds Sing.
Yes.
And when I was reading their story and looking at who Maya Angelou has become, I was like, well, it's possible for anyone, you know. And then Wangari Maathai, Harriet Tubman, reading Harriet Tubman's story, I was just mesmerized that a woman could lead all these people from slavery without fear, you know. It really made me feel like, you know, again, it's possible. So for me, even after that, Martin Luther King, listening to the speeches that he was giving, I was like, wow, I need to do something for Africa. So I have been inspired and motivated by a lot of men and women who came before us, and really, despite all they were going through, the courage just to stand for humanity and for justice inspires me, because I really believe that no child should be left behind in any way. That like here in America, there's so much food, but in Asia, some children don't have food, or in Africa. And there's so much stuff here, but somewhere out there, somebody doesn't have a place to stay. And stuff like that. To me, I think I want to speak to more of that so that we can all help each other. So I would like to encourage the youth to be unique. Because if I was out there trying to be like, you know, Jay-Z, I would not have been known. And that's why I also tell the the musicians in Kenya, don't try to be like a rapper in America, because I don't think you'll easily make it here in America if you want to be worldwide. And that should be the aim. You shouldn't think of just a small place. You should think of, you know, being global. But if you go with that aspect of I want to be somebody this and that, there are people who do it better than you. So find something that you're unique in and push that, and you will be definitely successful, because you know it better than anybody else. So just look for your uniqueness and forget what other people say. If you know what you're doing is right, focus on it and be unique and go out there and do it.
But realistically, I feel you. This is real talk. So we have to, you know, speak for real. I mean, youth nowadays, I mean, they're inundated. Everything you see on TV is, you know, I mean, when we were younger, the commercials were, you know, be like Mike, you know, but now it's like, be like Taylor Swift or Kanye. Everywhere they go, they turn on their phone, it's a message telling them to be anybody else but themselves. How do you feel our young people are supposed to find their way in this day and age?
I mean, that's a good question, but there are three things that have been able to make me stand. And I must say is the belief in God and my faith. Because when you have faith in God, you have an additional energy out there, because God says that we are all created and unique in our own unique ways, and that's one thing that kept me going, even when I saw other people prospering or getting better because they are doing what everyone else is doing. I felt that, you know, I need to stay and do the right thing. So to me, it's doing the right thing. And then secondly, as you said, is the fact that you gotta be courageous enough, and you gotta talk to yourself and give yourself positive thoughts, because, and as you say, visualize. You know, visualize that one day you will get there. I visualized so many things when I was 80 years old, and with all the visualization I did, I've been able to achieve most of what I thought about. So I think it's just being positive also. Stay positive and stay with the right crowd. Don't just go with people who are not going to help or benefit your life.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, now, I think you've impacted a lot of people watching. Some people may want to come out and see you firsthand. Do you have any events coming up?
Yes. First, I'll say if you want to get a rundown of all my events, you can go to my website, which is www.mwalagho.com. And I put all my events there, how to contact me and everything. But at the same time, I'll be having a performance with my band October 16th at Mead Episcopal Church in Old Town Alexandria. They're having an event called Jazz at Mead, and so my band and I will be there. I also failed to include one of my band members, and his name is Baba Joseph, and he's also been performing there in America for over 20 years. He actually opened up for Mandela when he came to perform. So all these are like all-round professional artists that I've been so blessed to find them. I don't know how. And so again, if you want my information, my website, www.anamwalagho.com, which is ANNAMWALAGHO.com.
Okay. And when is the release date for the CD?
Actually, I released the CD September 4th, so the date has passed. But at the same time, yes, you can also get my website through, the CD through my website. And I'm looking forward for this CD to take us to the next level. And the next level is performing globally and doing my different kind of music that will impact the young generation as much. I think they are so hungry for justice, for going out there and doing something. They just need leaders, good leaders.
And is that why you named the title of your CD Justice? Or is there a particular event that made you feel like you needed to call it Justice?
The way I call my CDs is because of where I am at the moment in my spiritual and mental set. The first CD, Ukweli, was because I had just come to America 6 years and I felt like there's no truth about Africa and about what is going on socioeconomically with people. And this other one, Justice, is because of also where I felt that with so many uprising going on in North Africa, and I feel like, yes, and even in Africa, parts of Africa, and in America, I feel like it's time for justice. It's time for things to be done in the right way. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Ana Mwalagho. They call you the mother of spoken Afrobeat. We appreciate you and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
No problem.
Thanks.
And that's another episode of Real Talk wrapping up. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at realtalk@omekongo.com. And remember, our youth are 50% of our population, but 100% of our future. Let's make sure we're taking care of them. See you next time.